This is episode 37, the clause and the simple sentence. Now so far we've looked at classes of words and their functions, and we've put these words together to make phrases and looked at their classes and functions. And now it's time to put these words and phrases together again to make clauses and, by definition, the simple sentence. So what is a clause? A clause is a group of words that have a grammatical relationship and contains a subject and a verb. That's what a clause is. Each clause can have only one lexical verb. So it may have a group of verbs, but only one of them is a lexical verb, and the others would be auxiliary. So let's have a look at a clause. Alice stepped through the looking glass. All right, so if we break this sentence down, or this clause down, it is a clause and it's a simple sentence. It'd look like this. Usually the first thing I do is find the lexical verb, and here the lexical verb is stepped. Then I go about finding the subject. Who stepped? Well, Alice did. So Alice is our subject. And that's what's required for a clause, the subject and the lexical verb. Whatever comes afterwards is, well, additional information. So in this situation, we have through the looking glass, and we learned earlier that through the looking glass is additional information where it's answering where. Where did Alice step? So Alice stepped through the looking glass is actually our adverbial. Okay, so that's what this clause is made of. This clause has got its subject, it's got its lexical verb, and it's got its adverbial. Alice stepped through the looking glass is also a sentence. Specifically, it is a simple sentence, because by definition, a simple sentence is made up of only one clause. Okay, so here are some other clauses that are also simple sentences. Let's have a look at them now, break them down. All right, so we'll take them one by one and go through them. The man is walking down the street with a suitcase. That's our first one. So the first thing I do is find my lexical verb. This is how I know it's just one clause, because it has its lexical verb and its subject. So walk is my lexical verb, and is here is an auxiliary verb. So this is actually a verb phrase. So who's doing the walking? Well, the man is. So that's my subject. The man is the subject. All the additional information here, down the street with the suitcase. Well, these are prepositional phrases, aren't they? Down the street with the suitcase. These are additional information. So down the street is an adverbial in the form of a prepositional phrase, and so is with the suitcase. That's an adverbial as well in the form of a prepositional phrase. Okay, so that's a clause, and it's also a simple sentence. Let's have a look at the next one. The trees sway gently in the breeze. So where's my verb? Gently is an adverb, that's not a verb. Sway is the verb here, so that's my lexical verb. What's doing the swaying? Well, the trees are. The trees are swaying, so that's my subject. So there it goes, there's my verb, there's my subject, that's a clause. Gently is an adverbial, it's telling how the trees are swaying, so we'll make that our adverbial, giving extra information. And we have in the breeze, and so in the breeze is also an adverbial, and it's in the form of a prepositional phrase. So again, we have two adverbials, a subject and a lexical verb, and that makes our clause and our simple sentence. So let's have a look at the last one here. The sound of the horn was incredibly loud. Okay, so let's, first of all, I'm going to find the verb, and the verb here is was. That's the first verb I can see, that's my lexical verb. And my subject, therefore, coming before it is the sound of the horn. That's a nice long subject. The sound of the horn is the subject. It's also a noun phrase, of course, it's describing the horn. Was, it's my verb. Incredibly loud. So loud is an adjective, incredibly is modifying the adjective, so it's an adverb, and that's describing the sound of the horn. It's linked with a linking verb, so this of course is a subject complement. All right, so in this situation we have the subject complement, incredibly loud. Okay, so all of these are clauses and they are also simple sentences. Now it's really important that we understand the difference between a clause and a phrase. Quite simply, a clause has a lexical verb, at least one, and other verbs of course maybe, but it has to have a lexical verb and it has to have a subject. And then it can have optional other bits like auxiliary verbs or adverbials or objects or anything like that, subject complements, but at the very least it has to have a lexical verb and a subject. A phrase, on the other hand, does not include the subject nor the verb. But there's a little bit of a thing about the subject that we're going to look at very soon, and that is sometimes you can't see the subject explicitly in the sentence. So let's have a look, but it's still there. So let's have a look and see what that means. All right? So let's have a look at that and make sure we can understand the difference between a phrase and a clause. So I've got a list of different utterances here, and we're going to decide which ones are phrases and which ones are clauses. So here we have at the end of the day. Now the first thing I'm going to do is look for the lexical verb, the verb, okay? So let's have a look at the end of the day. No verb here. All right, so there's no verb here. So let's see what we do have here. We have the noun, we have a determiner, we have another noun, we have a determiner. Here we have a preposition. So this is a noun phrase. And it's what we've done earlier. And of course there's our preposition here. It could actually be broken up to the day is a noun phrase, of the day is a prepositional phrase, the end is a noun phrase, at the end is a prepositional phrase, but ultimately this is all a prepositional phrase. Okay, and so we can break it down into little bits or whatever, but either way it is not a clause, it is a phrase. It's a mix of all these kinds of phrases. There's no verb there, no subject, it's just a phrase. Clean your room. Now this is an interesting one. First thing we're going to do is we're going to find the verb. So the verb here is clean. Now what's the subject? It doesn't seem to be a subject here, but actually I'm going to tell you that this is still a clause and it's still a simple sentence. I know, right? Just when you think it's all coming together. But in this simple sentence, this clause, there is an understood subject, understood due to its situational context. That is, this sentence is what we call an imperative, and we'll look at that soon, but effectively it's giving someone an order, it's telling someone what to do. And so we therefore know that the subject of this sentence, without having to say it, is you. You clean your room. But we don't say it because we don't need to, we know. And when we do omit a word like this in a sentence, this is an example of ellipsis. So let's just take a quick look at ellipsis and what it is. Ellipsis is the omission from speech or writing of a word or words that are superfluous or able to be understood from contextual clues. I mean, every speaker wants to say things as succinctly as possible. So if that means dropping words that we don't really need because people kind of understand them anyway, then that's what we'll do. And that very act is called ellipsis. So in this imperative sentence here, clean your room, we have a subject ellipsis and the subject is the understood you, the person to whom you're talking. So therefore, this, even though it doesn't have an obvious subject, is in fact a clause, it is in fact a simple sentence. It is not a phrase. Now let's have a look at the other ones. We will talk about it later. In this situation we find our verb. Talk is the lexical verb. We do have will here as well, but that's our auxiliary, it's our modal auxiliary verb. So there's our verb, there it is there. And we is the subject, that's who will be talking, okay? And then we have the rest of it here. In this situation, talk about, you could say, comes together as a complex verb. It is the direct object, and later is the adverbial. So that's what we're looking at with this one. Let's see if this one, the orange and purple sea monster, is a phrase or a clause. So the first thing I'm going to do is look for a verb. Is there a verb here? The orange and purple? No, there isn't. Okay, so what is this? Well, I know that orange and purple, well, this is a conjunction, this is an adjective, this is an adjective. So this here is an adjective phrase. That is the determiner, sea monster is the noun. So this whole thing is the noun phrase from there to there. That's our noun phrase. We don't know whether it's playing the role of subject or object or whatever, because we don't know whereabouts in the sentence it fits. It's just a phrase all by itself. Okay, it's got no context. Okay, and let's have a look at the last one. Really won't be going. Okay, so does it have a verb? Well, yes, it does. It has to go. I think going, I guess, is the lexical verb here. Be is a auxiliary verb. Will not, will is the auxiliary verb. Not here is an adverb. Really is also an adverb. So really, all of this here is one big verb. Okay, so yes, it does have the verb. So is it a clause or is it a phrase? I guess we have to see whether there's a subject. Well, there's no subject. And do we know from context what the subject would be? Well, not really. There's no solid suggestion about who that subject may be. I won't be going, my friend won't be going, class 9H really won't be going. There's no clue. Therefore, this is a verb phrase all by itself. It's not a clause. Okay, so this is the difference. So if we just summarise that up, we've got at the end of the day was a phrase. Clean your room was a clause and simple sentence. We will talk about it later is a clause and simple sentence. The orange and purple sea monster is a phrase, a noun phrase specifically. And really won't be going is a phrase as well. Okay? Oops, there we go. All right, so I guess that sums up clauses and the simple sentence. Next time we're going to look at compound sentences. That is sentences with two or more main clauses. Now in the past, video 19, I touched on conjunctions but said they'll become important down the track, and I guess, well, here we are and the conjunction is about to become important. So until then, thanks for watching. The Language Code